Hello and welcome to the LearnRHEL YouTube channel. This video is going to be about teaching people how to configure AIDE, the AIDE application, which is basically an intrusion detection software component. It is a derivative of the concepts and the ideas of the really old software called Tripwire. I'm not sure if that's around anymore or not. I guess I should do my own research and find out, but you can do the same. Anyway, this is going to be for any operating system that runs the AIDE package, and the target audience of this video is for Rocky Linux, the newest fork of CentOS. As you can tell based on the host name here, this is actually going to be Rocky Linux 8. There was no Rocky Linux 7. The video will also be compatible, the lessons from this video will also be compatible with Alma Linux 8, CentOS 8, and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. So let's get started. First, you can see that I'm a general user with WFrench as my account, and what I'm going to do is attempt to install the AIDE package because I know for a fact that this software has not been installed. Maybe you've installed the operating system and configured it with a dissystig up front, and therefore the AIDE package was installed by default. If not, this is what you can do to ensure you have the software components in place. So we will do, as my general user account called WFrench, the sudo command, dnf install, and then type AIDE. I don't put the -y. You can do that if you want and you're comfortable with it. I don't like that because I want to see what's going on before I commit to making a change to my system. There we go. So I targeted AIDE package, and there's only the AIDE package going to be installed. There are no dependencies, so this is a great start. We hit Y to hit enter, and the installation is software is complete. Excuse me. All right, so the next thing we need to do is check for the directories and files everywhere. So let's cd into etc, and we can do a less on the aide.conf file, recently installed. And if you notice, permissions denied. And that's because this is a security software, and we don't want just any general Joe Blow having access to the software and making changes to it. The software tracks changes to the files on the system. So we don't want to allow general users to act like hackers on the system. So we enable AIDE to be stringently controlled in terms of its access. So with that, I'm going to do a sudo less aide.conf, and I just realized I better specify the /etc directory. There we go. All right, so you can see some general stuff set here, and there's a whole bunch of settings in here. You can do man on the AIDE command in the AIDE suite, and you can figure out what else you can change. Me, I'm not really going to do too much to change this software. This is just a really easy overview of how the software is installed and, generally speaking, how you set up the AIDE database, which is basically generated based on the details you'll find in this file and then looking at the rest of the operating system. What it does is it generates a snapshot of all of the attributes of the file. So ownership, group ownership, world ownership, read-write executability in terms of permissions, the content, well, not really the content of the file, but the size of the file, and many, many other things. You can see references to the X-adders, the MD5, SHA-512, and 256 checksums. These are all things you can enable. And so we want to scroll down and take a look at the rest of this file. This is the normal setup that we would normally have. Monitoring directories, looking at hashes, permissions monitoring, logs, and so on. And these are basically a lot of the files that it's really critically monitoring. But it won't list every single file, so just be aware of that. This is software that actually works very nicely with the audit package, especially if you configure audit properly. You can see who did what, and with AIDE, you can figure out what happened to a file. AIDE does not monitor anything other than files and directories. It does not monitor services, so be aware of that. It might monitor the changes to files that control the services, but not the services themselves. All right, so that's the end of the file. Just wanted to show you that. And now let's go to the var lib, L-I-B, AIDE directory, AIDE. And again, I need to be root. So what I'm just going to do is make my life a little bit easier with this typing. Keep making mistakes on the screen here, and I'm going to sudo up to root, and now I have access to root. The prompt has changed, and we can tell. I type ID, you can see that I am now running with the identity of root. So again, we'll change to the var lib AIDE directory, and notice that it's empty. Okay, so now let's do a man on the AIDE command, and you'll see what this does. What we need to do is generate a database. We can do AIDE-NIT, or we can do AIDE-I. I like to do AIDE-NIT. Kind of keeps the command in my memory so I don't have to remember -I. And what does the lowercase I mean? Init, initialize the database. That's easy to remember. Then after you init a database, you then need to check your files later on by doing a check. And that's the kind of thing you would actually script through a cron job to compare the files as of this moment with the AIDE database being generated compared to timely changes over a week or a month or whatever. And you can set up the cron job to execute as often as you want or as infrequent as you want. Okay, so again, there's a man page. You know how to do man for yourself. There's been a video on that before, so I'll post the link for that here in the video before long. And these are all the possible outputs from the AIDE check, I'm guessing. Yeah, diagnostics, there we go. Okay. And it turns out that we can also do a man on the AIDE.conf to learn more about AIDE.conf. Let's do then on AIDE.conf. This will explain every configuration line and the details of that file we were looking at first. Okay, so we're getting down to the end of the file here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and run the AIDE-init command. And what we should end up getting is a file generated in this directory called aide.db.new.gz, a gzip file. And it might take a couple of minutes or it might take several minutes. Depends on how many files are actually installed or already generated on your system. Because what it needs to do is assess all the files to get a list of the files, then go back and review the files to determine the attributes and the various aspects of the file that we want to track with AIDE. So we're waiting patiently here for it to complete, and it will complete. Like I said, it does take a little bit of time. And once the file has been generated, the gzip file has been generated, we will rename the file. So here we go. This is actually a new version of AIDE, I'm guessing, because I've never seen output quite like this, but this is very interesting, right? Take a look at it. You get the SHA-512 of the file, of this file. And you got the MD5, and you got the SHA-1, SHA-256, and the RMD-160. Okay, so we'll do an ls-mysl in here. What we need to do in order to make the AIDE application useful and effective is we need to now take this file and rename it to what actually gets used. So we can do that very easily with a move command. I'm going to just copy and paste. I'm going to copy and paste the second time for the sake of not having to do so much typing. And now we have move AIDE.db.new.gz and renaming it to AIDE.db.gz. Very good. Now, we haven't really changed anything except for creating this AIDE.db.gz file. So the cool thing is we can go into root's home directory and maybe we can do a touch of a file. So let's do touch of AIDE test.txt. All right. And now we can run the AIDE check. AIDE dash capital C or dash dash check. And running this on the command line is probably a good thing to do the very first time so you can see and experience for yourself what the output would look like on the screen. Now I will show you by completing this task, this video, how you can implement it for the system to run the AIDE check automatically. So running the AIDE dash dash check, and again, there's a bunch of files in the system, and it needs to compare every single one of those files for every single aspect that the AIDE application cares about against this file, AIDE.db.gz file. You won't notice the difference between the AIDE.db.new.gz because it doesn't exist anymore. But if you're doing things like installing antivirus definitions and updating, and you just download the latest zip file and you extract it into place, you'll see that change over time unless you update the AIDE.db.gz file on a regular basis. Okay. So what happens is when you run AIDE and you have no changes in files, is you'll get this report. It'll look very similar to this, and then the summary. And what you would normally see is added entries would still be 0, removed entries would be 0, changed entries would be 0. But it did catch an added entry, so it's 1. And it's the entry that I created. If you remember the root directory, I created the AIDE_test.txt file. And there we are. And again, this is relatively new with AIDE output. I don't see this regularly, so just keep track of that. Be aware that with major 8 version of any of the Red Hat Enterprise Linux variants, Red Hat, CentOS, Rocky Linux, and Alma Linux, you're probably going to see something that looks like this as output. If you have a ton of files, you would see a great deal more information with a section for added entries, a section for removed entries below that, and then a section for changed entries. Added entries meaning files are brand new. Removed entries meaning the AIDE database was aware of a file, it was tracking a file, now it knows the file's gone. And changed entries are the file existed before, something's happened to the file, like maybe a mode change or ownership change, or maybe even the content has changed. But it will let you know that something has changed. Okay, so the final step here for this video, to keep this video brief, is to add the execution of the AIDE -- check to a cron job. So what we're going to do is cd to the etc directory. I am root still, and I'm going to do a vim on cron tab because this is an actual file, see? And then what we're going to do is come down one line, insert mode, and we're going to say at midnight 0000 for every day of the month, every day of the month, on every month, all 12 months, no matter whether it's Saturday through Sunday or Saturday and Sunday only. Let's just go ahead and say for the whole week, which will be asterisks. We want to do the sbin/aid -- check command. And that's really all we need to do. But let's double check that this is where the AIDE binary exists. So I'm going to do a :w to save my work here real quick. I'm not going to quit the file. :bang, and then I can do a type for the AIDE command. And we can see that SBIN AIDE is the actual proper path, full path to the executable called AIDE. So I've got this typed in perfectly. We can now save and quit the file. And basically at midnight tomorrow, or actually tonight, in another 11 hours and 47 minutes, this AIDE check will execute every single day for every single month, no matter whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday or Monday through Friday, it doesn't matter. And then we can come back and check the results. So as the system is used, files will be added, files will be edited, files will be deleted. We will see that kind of evolution over time. And we can track this even if we don't delete the reports. Now what's going to happen is AIDE is going to execute, and if we have the mail command installed, let's see, we do not. So yes, we want to install the mailx package to get the mail command. It'll also install the mailx command, but we want the mail command. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Y for enter and proceed with the changes. Yes. And we're done. So maybe the next video will be checking on the results of AIDE, and I will do that hopefully this weekend so I can get the video created and also upload that. In the meantime, thank you for your time, and I hope you had a nice evening.